How's everybody doing, okay? Great. All right. Hey, for those of you who don't know, my name is Auricchio, and I'm here to tell you that you can do what I do, or you could become the person you were meant to be. You may be prosperous in peace, wealth, or you could be rich in romance with your wife or loved one, or you could have all three, depending on the person that you were meant to be. But before I get started, I would like to congratulate each and every one of you for showing up here today. You know, it's a real pleasure to know that you're here to broaden your horizons. Isn't that right? Okay. Now, but that's your first step towards wealth, unless you're already wealthy. And how many people out here are already wealthy? All right. Oh, great. Hey, some of you are. But I'm going to tell you something. A few years ago, I wasn't. And I remember coming to seminars just like this one here today and looking up and thinking and wondering if I would ever become a success. You know, during this time, I would hear such songs of inspiration. I would get feelings in my heart, feelings that I realized that someday I would be there. But you know, during this time, I worked many long, hard hours of work, thinking that because of my long and hard hours of work, I thought that I would become prosperous or successful. But what I was doing was chasing my tail. I was going in a circle. I was going in one big circle, just thinking, hey, look, you know, I had car bills, food bills, utility bills, clothes bills. I mean, these are basic necessities that I was having a real hard time with. And this one life that we have to live in this land of opportunity, there should be no reason why we should have to wake up in the middle of the night wondering how we're going to pay these bills. So what I did was I worked more long and hard hours of work, thinking that I would catch up. But boy, was I wrong. I was wrong again in my life. So what I did was I realized that real estate was the best vehicle for me. And obviously that's why you're here. Can we like dim the lights a little bit so we could see this? So what I did was, even though I had no substantial amount of money, I went around looking for a property. Now I looked for a multifamily, which would be a two-family dwelling for my first property, realizing that it would create a positive cash flow. And if I had a two-family home, if one of my tenants moved out, I would only be 50% vacant, whereas if I owned a single-family home, I would be 100% vacant. So what I did was I looked for my property. I looked for that two-family dwelling. I was able to realize this because of creative financing. Now, what I did was I thought that I didn't need a course in my life. I thought that I could do it on my own. But folks, who was I listening to? I was listening to me, someone who had no idea what he was doing in real estate. I had no proven record. So what I did was, first of all, let's discuss this. True success is to discover and reach your maximum potential, okay? And that is becoming the person you were meant to be. Now, what I realized is I had to stop working harder in my life, and I had to start working smarter, which we all have to do. We all have to realize that just because we're working, like I said before, we're working very hard chasing our tails, that doesn't mean anything. We have to have a proven system, a system that's created by successful people, created by entrepreneurs, so we can then not even worry about all the in-betweens, all of this stuff that we don't understand. We can learn by successful people ourselves. So what I did was, I show you this picture because it's very important for you to realize this was my first two-family home that I bought. Folks, I want to just explain that the reason why I'm showing you this, and these things, these pictures here today, is because I want you to realize that you will borrow for profit and not for ego. What I do isn't glamorous. I don't drive around and look for properties that are mansions and $2 million properties and $3 million properties when I was first starting out. I couldn't afford to do that. So what I did was I got involved with this stuff, and this is what made me money. And this is why I'm here today, speaking to you. Now, in the beginning, what I did was I finally realized about working smarter. So I purchased my two-family dwelling. Now, this was without any knowledge whatsoever. I mean, I went around and I researched some things, but no big deal. I looked at my life and I said, 2 years later, I still had this one two-family dwelling. So obviously I wasn't doing something right, I was doing something wrong. So I ordered the Dave Dotto cash flow course. And once I ordered this course, I was able to excel and become the person I was meant to be. Now, through that course, I heard about something called refinancing. And then I refinanced that original dwelling. And this is what I did. The property, I refinanced for $75,000. It was appraised at $125,000. I had a $47,000 first lien on the property. So the $75,000 minus the $47,000 equals $27,500. Well, actually, it was really 47. I had that 500,000 because that was other costs there, that 27.5. $2,500 were my closing costs. I had $25,000 in tax-free money. Now, why is this money tax-free? Because it's a loan. We borrowed it from the bank, and what we're going to do here then is we're not the ones paying it back. It's the tenants who are paying it back. So that's number one that we have to realize, and it's tax-free because it's a loan. It's not actual, quote, income. But to me, it's income because, as I said before, it's not me paying it back, it's my tenants. That's why two-family, four-family homes are very good in the beginning. I used that money for profit, the $25,000. I didn't go out, I didn't put a down payment on a Lamborghini, I didn't go out and put, buy some other thing that was useless. What I did was I used that for profit, and I purchased another home with that. We'll get into that. Now, I had $50,000 in equity left after I refinanced that property, and I still had positive cash flow. But I realized that I had to pull out that $25,000 to go on with my investing career. Now, this was June 19th, 1987. Now, by the time I realized how to do these simple feats, I saw another two-family dwelling, and this was by a hospital. I was able to, again, use creative financing, and I had this $25,000 in my pocket. Now I felt great. I was going around saying, hey, I got $25,000. I felt that I can do it. I had the confidence that I needed. So I found this home, and I sat down with the gentleman. Now, this home was appraised at $135,000. I negotiated a deal that I could purchase the property for $120,000. But at the time, I was able to negotiate something called an appraisal loan. Now, understand all these terms, they're very important. They base the property value at $135,000, and they base the loan on that. So 80% of $135,000 is $108,000. So I purchased it for $120,000. I had a $12,000 second mortgage or deferred payments. I talked to the seller about that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And then my balance was $108,000 that I received from the bank. And also, I negotiated with the seller that he would pay my closing costs, providing I would buy it as is. Now, you see, folks, a lot of times when we walk into a property, there's certain things that have to be fixed, and they sign a contract with us, and the contract may say that we must make sure that all fixtures and plumbing and everything else is in good order. So what I did was I looked at that and I said, well, listen, you just signed a contract that states all these things, but yet this is going to cost me some money to fix. Now, the reason why people normally sell property is because they don't know how to manage a property, or they don't want to fix things. So I realized that, and I said to him, I'll tell you what, I'll buy the property as is, providing you pay my closing costs. And he agreed. Here's something that's very important for all of us to realize. I want all of you people to do me a big favor, please. I want you to raise your hands. Okay? Raise your hand. All right? Now, what I want you to do is realize that if I didn't ask you to do that, you would have never done it. Right? So ask and you shall receive. So that's very, very, very important for you to realize that. All right? So that's what I did. I asked, and I had him do that, pay my closing costs. So I want you to learn by this. Folks, I came out here for a reason. I dedicated these 5 days of my life to you. I want you really to learn because, as I said before, there's no reason why we should have bad things happening to our lives, or if we're wondering about how we're going to pay for bills and everything. I know how it is. And that's why you're here. No matter what level you're at in your life, you can always do better. And we all realize that. So, now, I heard about something called grant money. And then again, this was in a blighted area. This area was totally destroyed. But I knew about something called grant money. And by the end of this week, I want you to all come up to me and ask me questions, because that's what I'm here for. If you don't understand government grant money, things like that. I knew that this property was eligible for grant money, and grant money is eligible for buildings, not for the person buying them. So it's automatically attached to the building. So no matter who I am, the building still can get grant money. Okay, you follow? So I heard about grant money, and I purchased this property. Now everybody thought I was crazy. Everyone said, gee, you know, look at this guy going into this area, buying this property, and I bought this property at full price. The reason why is because, number one, the seller was willing to hold back a second mortgage. Number two is because I realized the growth potential through government grant money. Now, within 3 months, let me tell you what happened. I purchased the property for $140,000. That was full price. I rehabilitated it for $57,000. My total costs were $197,000. Folks, this is my third deal. This property I closed on July 18th, 1987. Okay, this is my third deal already within a month's time. Total cost were $197,000. I only received grant money of $20,000 at the time because it was only $5,000 a unit at that time. Now it's more money per unit that you will receive. That's free money, money you never have to pay back. So minus the $20,000, I had a total cost of $177,000. 3 months later, because of the grant money of rehabilitation and because of, based on income, the property was appraised at $281,000 in 3 months. The appraisal was $281,000. I refinanced the property for $180,000, so I didn't pull out any tax-free money on this particular deal. So I had $101,000 in equity at that time that I wanted to keep into the property only for a few months to let it look good on paper. And I still had a positive cash flow of $1,000 a month. Folks, this took me 3 months to do this deal. You see, if you go out and you buy an average foreclosure, or if you buy an REO, or if you buy any type of property for sale by owner, no matter what you buy, as long as you buy it in a targeted area, and in some states there are no targeted areas, that you get grant money on top of that. So if you bought that foreclosure and made $50,000 on that deal, and you're doing cartwheels and you're so happy, if the government gives me $30,000 in grant money to rehabilitate that property, that's instant equity. Folks, I want you to realize that that same deal you just made $80,000 on in equity. Do you understand that? Okay? If you don't, then I'll answer questions later on. So then what I did was I realized that the couple blocks down, as a matter of fact, this was 2 blocks down, this was sitting on a corner, and I looked at that. And this is when I realized, you know, I have to look with my mind and not with my eyes. I realized at that time what can be done with this property. Now, within a few months later, this is what I did with the property. This was done with grant money. This property I purchased at a very low price. I got a variance approval to turn it from a 2-family to a 4-family home. And now it was reappraised, this particular property, at $300,000. $300,000. And that was within a 4-month period. Now that's fabulous. Now I was able to purchase this property at $96,000. But I received grant money, I received a construction loan. Folks, what you have to realize is this, is that when you purchase a property, and if you need, you say to yourself, well, what about the extra money that I have to come up with? Very simple. What I do is I teach you how to go to a financial institution and show them the growth potential of the property. If this property was taking in, I think, $800 a month when I first bought it, now it takes in, it's approximately $4,200 a month. $4,200 a month, because I have all 3 bedrooms in there, and in this particular town, I receive very high rents on this particular property. Okay? Now that's because I'm getting the government money, the checks every month from the United States government. So I receive that kind of money from this property. This property has a very good cash flow. I did this particular deal with a partner. And then he's the one who came up to me. He realized that I knew what I was doing. I got involved with him. Then after we rehabilitated the property, I bought him out. We switched properties because I didn't want to have a partner at the time. Okay, now we're talking about deals here that are very, very, very important, that I want you to look at these. I want you to understand what I do, so this way you can, you look at it and you decide which route you want to take in your investment career. Because as I said yesterday, I started 2.5 years ago with $2,000. Now I turned that, that particular $2,000, my first year, I parlayed that into $2.6 million worth of property. Now I'm worth much, much more than that. Now, as a matter of fact, last October, I did that just for the month of October. I did $2.4 million just for the month of October. And every single month, I'm buying more and more and more. My cash flow is increased every time I purchase a property, and my net worth is increased every time I purchase a property. And as long as you concentrate on that, you can buy as much as you can get. As many homes as you can possibly do a contract on. The money will come. It's no problem. You can find partners, because after a while, the bank might turn around to you, say to you, hey, look, we can't lend you any more money. But that's going to be under persistence, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. So I did that deal. I did this deal. Now, how many people would buy this property? Not many, right? But then again, I looked at this property with my mind and not with my eyes. This is the back of the property. It was on that same street. I just want to tell you, see this street? I bought my first I bought my first 4-family dwelling on that, which was that one that you saw before with grant money. And then I realized that everyone said, wow, this guy's crazy coming into this area. He thinks he's going to make it work. But they didn't understand the secret. And the secret was grant money. So now I own that whole block. Not only the block, but the street. Okay, I own the whole lower section because no one realizes how I did it. All right? And this is what created wealth for me. Now that particular property, this is what it looked like. I mean, it's terrible, right? It's terrible. You might say to yourself, I don't know anything at all about rehabilitation or anything like that. Folks, you really don't have to know that. As long as you have a contractor, a loyal and knowledgeable contractor, or a carpenter, an electrician, and a plumber, and they have a license, and if you know how to do a contract with an attorney, then that's all you need. That's all you need is loyal and liable people that you have a contract with. And then before you know it, within 3 months, the whole deal is done. You approach the bank, you ask them for a construction loan. They'll be more than happy to give you a construction loan because they know that you're going to receive grant money in only a few months. They know your potential of the property. They know how much cash flow you're going to have. This particular property, okay, this is what it looks like now. The inside is absolutely beautiful. Okay? I purchased this property for $120,000. Now, folks, with these deals that I'm talking about, I want you to understand that I use with the same $25,000 that I originally had in my pocket from my first deal. Okay? But it seemed like I had the $25,000, but every time I made a deal, people were willing to negotiate my terms. I purchased the property for $120,000. It cost me $70,000, including architectural plans. That's my total costs for rehabilitation. I had a total cost of $190,000 into this property. I received $29,000 in grant money. That made my cost $161,000. It appraised 4 months later, folks, at $325,000 because it was taken in $3,800 a month, this particular property. Because why am I getting that kind of income? Because the United States government pays for the tenants. You see? Let me tell you why this was established before we go any further. Grant money was established because in the 1960s, they used to build tenement buildings. They used to build buildings that were, you know, maybe 10 stories high, and they would put low-income people in there. But who managed these properties? Not successful people. The government managed it. These people who are getting paid $3 an hour didn't care about what happens with that building or Mrs. Jones and Mr. Smith. They didn't care about them because it wasn't their building. So the United States government realized that you and I can go out to areas, and they would rather have us purchase property in a specific area, and they would give us money to rehabilitate these properties. Why are they willing to do this? Because we care about our properties. We're going to make them last. Also, folks, what is very important is that if you receive grant money, and if you have Section 8 tenants in your properties, if for any reason you have a negative cash flow, the United States government will come in, examine why you have a negative cash flow, maybe because of increases of taxes, or maybe because it's increase in your water bill. And if it's anything that is not your fault, let's just say refinancing a $100,000 property for $1 million, I mean, that's absurd. They don't care then. But if you have legitimate costs, they will come in and make sure that your rents are raised until you're in a positive situation. Because, folks, why are they willing to do this? Because if you and I have a property that is a negative situation and the boiler breaks down, we're not going to fix it, and that property is going to become a slum again. Okay? That's very important. But if for any reason you're worried about them putting a hole in the wall, you send the bill to the government. It's their responsibility to send you the money back, and they do it. If for any reason the tenant does not pay his portion of the rent, which may be $43 out of a $900 rent, they may terminate the contract that the tenant has with the United States government, and they'll be kicked off of Section 8. I have yet had a problem with any Section 8 tenant whatsoever. And not only that, folks, but what you're doing is buying property at the lowest possible price because no one else is willing to go into these areas. But you understand about grant money, and you have the most growth potential than any other deal that you can make. I spoke on television, on national television, about a deal that I made $285,000 on within 4 months. I just closed on a property that I would be more than happy to share with you once that particular job is done, that I'm going to make $397,000 on. Not $400,000, $397,000 exactly. You see, if you want to be a true capitalist, you have to understand exactly, dollar for dollar, how much money you're going to make in a deal. Before I even sign my name to that contract, I know when I'm going to close, who I'm going to get the financing from, where I'm going to, who's going to do my work, when it's going to be done, and when I'm going to refinance for profit. Because I know what I'm doing, and you have to know what you're doing also. You can't just go out there and just say, oh, well, I'm going to call up the DCA, Department of Community Affairs, and get involved with all these other information on grant money, you know, and try to, quote, wing it. That's what I did. I tried the first deal that I did. 2 years later, I looked at myself. I still only own that two-family home. Once I had the knowledge, I was able to keep on going. I wasted 2 years of my life, 2 years, thinking that I could do it all on my own. But I was wrong. What I've done, I mean, if I was able to start 2 years before, the whole situation is that I would be just that much further in my life. All right? So that is very, very, very important. Oh, I didn't even discuss that particular property, $325,000. I refinanced for $180,000. All right, so I was able to pocket the balance from the $160,000 of the $180,000 in my pocket, tax-free money. I still had $145,000 worth of equity in my building that I can always turn around, and, you know, in maybe a year from now or whatever, and pull that out to buy other properties, which is very important. Still had $145,000 after I pocketed the 20-something thousand dollars, and I had a positive cash flow in my pocket each and every month of $1,600. That, to me, was a very good deal. And, you know, these are my first deals that I did. These few properties that I'm showing you are is the beginning of my investment career. Now I'm able to do those deals because now I'm solid. You ever hear that saying that you can't hang a swing on a tree the next day, the day after you plant it? You have to get that solidness there. That's very important before you go out and conquer 100-unit buildings and 30-unit buildings, unless you have a partner who knows what they're doing. So if any of you brought me a good deal, then sure, then it's a different story. All right? But then again, it's called personal initiative. And if you find the greatest deal in the world and are wasting your time looking for someone to back you on the deal, you're losing valuable time where you can go out by yourself and do such deals like this. Because after only 6 months, you'll get a reputation that you know what you're talking about, and people will then come to you. And people will then say to you, look, I want to be a partner, this, that, and the other thing. You know, after about 6 months, I never had to look for a property. I remember driving around 3 o'clock in the morning, looking for properties, just looking for sale signs and everything, because I just couldn't sleep. I was so excited about it. And I would drive around and look and look and look and talk to real estate agents and search. But then only a few months later, they all called me. I had attorneys calling me up. I had agents calling me up. So I never actually, right now, I don't have to look for a property. I'll get a phone call and say, look, this one needs money, that one has a problem, this one passed away. And then I choose. It's up to me. And then if the numbers work, I don't buy property. I buy numbers. If the numbers work, I buy it. It's as simple as that. Because I could care less what I have to do with it as long as I have the knowledge of hiring competent people to fix it for me, the problems. And if I'm going to receive grant money that's for free that I never have to pay back, then why should we ever buy a property that we can't receive grant money for? Unless if it's in a hospital area, or if it's in a hospital is very important. I own properties in hospital areas. I can always rent them out to doctors. I can surely rent them out to nurses like I always do. Okay? I mean, these are good rental markets. I don't receive grant money for that, but I understand. Don't forget, we're in this business to do what we're here for, and that is become the person we were meant to be and make our dreams and goals a reality. Not say, hey, listen, buddy, I just bought this property. In 15 years from now, I'm going to make a $300,000 profit. Now, what is that? If you want to buy a piece of land that is such a beautiful deal that you'll have a negative cash flow on, do yourself a favor. Buy a property, refinance the property, okay? Make sure you have a positive cash flow. Use that money to purchase that land. Or use that money to put a deposit on that land if you can't use creative financing. And with your positive cash flow, use that to build to buy your property. Let me tell you a story about this gentleman who came up to me and he said to me, hey, Neil, I just did this real estate deal. I'm so excited. I just bought a Mercedes cash. It was a great, I got this beautiful, he got the special gold edition. It was like $80,000 the car. Beautiful car. I said, why did you buy it cash? He said, because I did a deal and I took the money from that and I bought it cash. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Wouldn't you rather have put $10,000 down on that car? Maybe it would have cost you, let's just say, $1,000 a month. With that $80,000, go out and find a multifamily that has a tremendous cash flow, which with $80,000, that's I could find your deals a dime a dozen. Go buy yourself a 10-family home, get the cash flow from that property, and pay for that car payment. Because then you'll have appreciation on your home and it'll increase in value. Right? Instead of that car. That car is for ego and it's not for profit. I was going to go out one time and spend $120,000 on a car, and I said, wait a minute now. I said, is this for profit or is this for ego? I said, well, maybe it is for profit because then, I'll be able to drive up the bankers and stuff. And then I said, wait a minute, who am I kidding? I don't care about no bankers, what they think. The fact is that I'll go out and buy more property. Then maybe I'm 26 years old, maybe when I'm 30, then I'll buy the Lamborghini. But no, I'm only kidding. But the whole thing is that there's no reason for that. Once you have it and you're able to afford these things, you realize that you're just trying to impress the common person. Who's the common person? The common person is broke. The common person is worried about paying their bills. Why should I impress those people? Why should you impress those people? You know what I say? I say do everything opposite that the common person does, and maybe you'll become successful. Okay? Because the common person are your dream destroyers. These are the people that tell you it can't be done. I like calling them dream destroyers because they say, oh, don't go to that millionaire school. What are you, crazy? You know, what are you going to, what is this all about? What are you going to learn? What are you going to talk to? Who are you going to talk to? What are they doing right now, folks? They're working, right? They're back at their homes working in their job. Right? Isn't that true? So think that. Get that attitude. I hate dream destroyers. Boy, let me tell you something. I hate negativity. When someone negative shakes my hand, I go wash my hands. I don't want to I don't want to be bothered with that. I don't want any negativity around me. I want to think of definiteness and purpose in my life. Folks, this money, don't forget, I started with $2,000. If I lose everything today, if a world opens up and all my properties fall in, I only lost $2,000. Right? But I have the knowledge, and I could do it again, and I'll do it faster. Because what I do in a month now is what I did my first year in this business. I collect over $50,000 a month in rent, and within the next 8 months, I will be collecting $120,000 a month in rent. Okay? I have a tremendous positive cash flow, and I have tremendous equity that whenever I find a deal, I can easily pull it out and buy another property. But folks, here's the whole situation. Is that even though I was, I had that $145,000 in that particular property, I still pocketed $26,000, I think it was $26,000. I don't need any more than that to buy anything I want. Providing I don't have, because there's certain times that the sellers will not pay your closing costs and your points, so you'll have to come up with deals like that. I just purchased a property that cost me almost $16,000 just for points. Just for the points. So sometimes you have to be prepared for that. But I didn't pay for those points. My tenants paid for that points. You see? So it's getting involved with bigger properties. So what I did was all these properties that I'm showing you, I did through creative financing. Okay? Now look at this. See that property there? I bought that property. I rehabilitated it without a bank. I did all that through the same methods that I told you. Or I had private financing done with these properties. Now after they get done, then the bank is... See, what I did was, during this time, I found properties like this, and this is all on the same street, that I found properties like this, I bought them, I rehabilitated them, and I used total creative financing and dealings until I was able to find a good financial institution that was willing to work with me. Because at the time, a mortgage was hard to get for everyone. And also, a lot of the other banks, they had tremendous high rates. They didn't like investment properties. I heard more excuses than I ever heard in my life. So I still bought property through creativity. I created that. So I put myself into the right place at the right time. That's what timing is. Personal initiative, putting yourself in the right place at the right time. I want to discuss now certain personalities with you, what I call secrets of success. Folks, faith. I want you to know what faith is. Understand that you, through personal initiative, can do whatever you want. If you don't have faith, you don't have anything. That's why you have to stay away from those negative people and dream destroyers. So have faith. Faith is you have to have the confidence in your ability to do anything you desire. How many people here who think that they have the ability to do anything they desire? Please, why aren't some of you aren't? Is everybody raising their hands? Okay. If someone next to you didn't raise their hand, ask them why. Because you're here because you have faith. Faith is believing in something without proof or evidence. So if I tell you that you can buy a property and make X amount of dollars on it in 3 months, or if you know that, you have to have the faith that you can do it. Because if I didn't have faith in my own ability, and if I waited around for other people to do things for me, then I'd be still rolling around in my bed wondering who's going to pay my bills. You have to get rid of these 7 basic fears, folks. You got to get rid of it, and you got to work on it every day. Put these in your freedom planners. You got to get rid of fear of poverty. You got to get rid of fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of loss of liberty, fear of old age, and fear of death. Who here are free of these 7 basic fears? I am. I am. Work on it, folks. If you're not free of those fears, work on it. Now, most of you didn't raise your hand, so I'm concerned now. So I'm going to go into this again. Why do we fear poverty? We all have the opportunity to become wealthy. We're all here for a reason. We all want to go out and do it, right? So why should we fear that when it's up to us? Sometimes we concentrate so much on fear of poverty that we never go forward. So knock that off. Fear of criticism. What do you care? Dream destroyers. Obviously you don't care about fear of criticism, because I know that each and every one of you was criticized for coming here. I know it. Look at those people. Is that what you want to be like? If that's what you want to be like, those people who told you don't come, then you listen to them. If you don't, then you stay away from them. Because I happen to know that those people who told you not to come here aren't what you're going to become. Okay? Think about that. Fear of loss of love. Hey, if you have your morals straight, and if you have things in perspective, you never have to fear loss of love. Fear of loss of liberty. Freedom. I know we live in the United States. We don't have to worry about that, right? So we're going to skip that. Fear of old age. Hey, we all have to grow older. Just think of growing older as getting wiser. Very important. I happen to be very fortunate that I learned these things at a young age. Very fortunate. Fear of death. So what? If you die, you die. What are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do about it at that moment. So why worry about it at all? That's why you have to treat every day, folks, please listen to me, every day like as if it was your last. You know, every time I come on a seminar, I do my work the day before, and I get things done that day what I would have normally done in 3 days. And that taught me something. And now every day I do what I could have normally done in 3 days. Because I treat each day like it's last. Forget about those terrible deals. Forget about that ego stuff. Just do it. Just go out and make yourself into a success. Pleasing personality. Folks, you have to be good to people. What are you going to do? Walk around with an attitude? Right? I mean, can you imagine? I want you to sell me this property. You know, or whatever. It's like, yeah, give me this property. Oh, forget it. Oh, you're no good. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, come on now. Just treat people good. What did Abraham Lincoln say? I think he said, you know, some folks are as happy as they make up their own minds to be. Okay? So if we're thinking about everybody's against us in our life, then we're getting off of our track. All right? Personal initiative, as I said before, and I'm going to stress this so much. Personal initiative is going and doing it on your own, by yourself. Don't be thinking about the other guy making those things for you, looking for property and doing this and doing that. Go out and do it on your own. Those are going to be the best deals you ever made in your life. Then you can delegate things. You can delegate non-essential things like phone calls, going to the mailbox and dropping off the mail. That you can delegate. But when it comes to your life, it's personal initiative for the most essential things in your life. Positive mental attitude. We all must have a positive mental attitude. We all must know what a positive mental attitude is. We must go out and know that we can do whatever we want to do. That is faith. You know, imagine me saying, oh, that property, oh, it's terrible, it's going to be so hard to do and everything else. Knock it off and just do it. All right? Enthusiasm. Look that up in the dictionary. Enthusiasm. Only the people who have enthusiasm truly understand the meaning of enthusiasm. This is what gets you up and over the mountains. Okay? This is what's going to make you just keep on going. This is where you're going to have that passion for the buildings that you buy. Controlling your attention. Folks, how many of us control our attention? How many of us are so worried about the other guy, we're jealous, or maybe we're concentrating on the other guys, or we're greedy, that we worry so much about the other guy, you know, we're saying, oh no, he's coming into my area. Hey, there's plenty to go around. If you're so concerned about the other guy, you're going to be looking at him so much that he's going to surpass you and blow you away. That's why you have to look at your mark and just go for your dreams and just go for it. And stay on that track, because if you look the other way and if you're a little greedy, you're going to be going off to the other side while he is concentrating on his mark and he's going to go for it. Learn from defeat. Very important, learning from defeat. I want to share you one story. The most delightful answer that I've ever heard in my life was when they asked Edison, how did you ever create the incandescent light bulb? And he said, well, I'll tell you. He said, first of all, he said that I failed so many times that I was bound to get it right. You understand? If we all had that wonderful attitude, where would we be today? I failed so many times that I was bound to do it right. He said, I'll tell you one thing, I know 9,999 ways not to make a light bulb. Okay? So he learned by defeat. So important. And I want to share you a story that I want you to remember, and you will remember this for the rest of your life. And treat your life like this. There was this tank of water, and they had this experiment with these fish. And they dropped this large fish in the tank of water. And the fish swam around searching for food. Natural instinct. Then they dropped in these smaller fish, and the large fish immediately ate them up. That's okay, it had to eat. Right? That was its natural instinct to live. And therefore he had to eat those smaller fish. So they put a glass divider in that tank. And they put the big fish on the one side and the smaller fish on the other side. And every time the small fish came by the divider, the large fish would snap at the smaller fish and it would bump its nose. It tried this several times and it kept on getting hurt. So eventually it stopped trying, it was just swimming around. They lifted up the glass partition and the smaller fish came and swam in front of the large fish's nose. The larger fish didn't even go for it. It was hurt so many times that it was afraid to take one more step into success. Eventually, that fish died because it was so afraid of trying again. How many of us have opportunity right in front of our noses, and all we have to do is take one step into success? We're right there. That's all we have to do. Please, folks, get that attitude. Okay? That's a very important story. He had the opportunity to eat and to go on in his life if he would just take one more step, one more try. And yet he'd rather die, poor and starving, than to just take that one more step. Budgeting your time. Obviously, you all have your freedom planners because you're at the Millionaire School. You understand what budgeting your time is. So we're going to skip that. Now, these are just properties. Let me tell you something about this property. This property is on the same block. And this reminds me of persistence. Oh, you see this property here? This is the property that before had no windows and everything. And I own that piece of vacant land in between there, which is going to be 8 apartments and 2 stores. This building reminds me of persistence. Write this down. I will not quit, no matter how much pain and how many problems I encounter, because those things are nothing compared to my desire. Nothing compared to my desire to win, to do anything that I want. Okay? So if I gave you all tricycles, and if I put a pot of gold right here, and you were coming down and that back wheel popped off, what are you going to do? Roll over and lie down and say, I can't, I can't? You're going to get up and carry that thing because you want that pot of gold so bad that that wheel isn't any big deal. It's no big thing. Just do it. Just do it. You know, it reminds me of a story that I look at so many people in the airport, frantic, running and jumping and leaping and all these other things and pushing people out of the way and all this. You know, one time I missed my airplane. So my wife and I were over in Maui, and I missed I was in Kona. I was in Hawaii. I was going to Maui. And I missed the airplane. First time in my life I missed the airplane. So what I did was, I walked to the next counter and I bought another ticket. When you have a problem, just deal with it, folks. Say to yourself, just deal with it. If you just deal with it, you'll be able to just do it. And then I see the guy going, oh, I lost my plane, I missed my plane, boom, 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 going crazy, when he could have just walked over and bought another ticket or traded in his ticket to get a later flight. Big deal. So then you go on the phone and make some phone calls. Okay, or whatever. That's all. Just deal with it. Just deal with it. Just deal with it. All right? What are you going to do? Okay, please. Okay. Now, this property, oh, let me tell you something. Let me tell you about persistence, first of all. That particular property, this one here, took me over a year to buy. Because I went over to the seller, and the seller was selling it for $450,000. He said to me, this property is $450,000, and that what I want to do is, this is listed by the real estate agent. So I said, okay, thank you very much. So when he told me $450,000, I didn't really say thank you very much. What I said to him was, good luck, I'll see you, take care. And I walked out because I thought that was a ridiculous price. So I went straight down to the tax office, and I found out that 2 years earlier he bought that property for $115,000. Folks, everybody's due a profit, but from $115,000 to $450,000, I knew that I could negotiate. Okay? This is that knowledge, that stuff that you have to use, but knowledge is nothing unless you use it. Realize that. So what I did, and I'm telling you these stories because there's going to be times in your life that you're going to come up with something similar, and you need these stories. This property here, $450,000. I walked out, found out that he owned the property for $115,000 2 years earlier. Based on income, I submitted him an offer for $175,000. He immediately rejected. I said, I asked him. I said to him, $175 based on income. He said, no way, so I left the building. Now then he told me that he had someone else. This was like months later. Many months later, he told me, I had called him up to see how things were going. I didn't take it personal. I didn't take it personal and say, oh, this guy, no good, blah-blah. So I had that pleasing personality. I said to him, I said, so what's happening? He said to me, well, I have a contract on the property for $285,000. I said, oh, great, when are you closing? He goes, well, actually, it didn't get signed yet, but he's meeting with the realtor tomorrow to sign the contract. So now I know that he's coming down. Obviously, he needs money because he's dropped from $450 to $285. All right? The guy never showed up to sign the contract. When I found this out, I immediately drew up a contract, submitted it for $175. I just did it orally before, but now I did it in writing. Sometimes you have to do that because when they have that in their hand, it does something psychological to them. And I submitted it. Again, he immediately rejected it. So then, I found out that a few months later, this was, I think, a total of 10 months later, that this property, he told me, I called him up again. I said, how you doing? Because I realized that nothing was happening with the building. He said, well, look, I got a contract on this property for $225. I said to him, oh, great, great. But you know what? This contract fell through because the guy couldn't get a mortgage. There was a mortgage contingency in the contract that he could not get a mortgage and the deal was void. So he called me up then, almost a year later, and he said to me, I'll tell you what, I'll sell you the property for $210. And you know, folks, I was willing to pay $220 for this property. And he called me up and he said to me, $210. I said to him, well, I'll tell you what, the property I feel is worth $175. But if you hold back a second mortgage, or rather defer payments of $50,000, then what I'll do is I'll pay you $205 and you have to pay my closing costs. He agreed. I got the property for $205. This particular property, this area here, I had to stop in this particular block because there's a sewer moratorium. Because all the construction that's going on this block right now, there's a sewer moratorium because the sewer systems can't handle all the new, the new housing and everything else in the area. So they're changing all the sewer systems. So I had to hold off on redeveloping this property. But this property is going to make me $145,000 once completed. Okay, that's why next door to it I'm also going to build that 8-family plus 2 stores once that sewer moratorium is lifted. But you know what, folks? This particular property, see, that's just it. We never know when the government's going to turn around and say there's a sewer moratorium from the state, or there's something else that's going on, or a particular problem. But you know, I bought this property. If I purchased it for $220, I would have still had a positive cash flow. I purchased this property at $205. I have a great positive cash flow. I don't care. I could hold on to that for 10 years. I get income every year and growth potential on that property. And not only that, but when I rehabilitate it, it'll be that much more. It'll be worth that much more, and that's grant money from the government. Okay? Now, this property here I did through creative financing also, and that property is attached, this property is next to it. There's a vacant piece of land next to it. Now, this is what it's going to be once completed. I'm going to build a building in between it. This is going to be all low-income housing. What I do, folks, is this. Lately, it seems that I've been buying a lot of bars. I went around, I mean, it was like incredible. It's like, it seems to me that that's a pretty good deal. I bought the bar, which was on this left-hand side. I was able to get it at a very good price. What I do then is I sell the liquor license back to the township. I'll get maybe $40,000 for that liquor license, plus I'll sell everything inside. Somebody will come up, I'll say, look, take all the chairs, take the bar, take the things with for the beer, the taps, take everything, take the glasses, I don't care, give me $5 grand for it. So I'll have $45,000 for that property that I just liquidated that goes into my pocket. Sure, that's taxable income. But then I rehabilitate that property. This particular property is going to make me so much money that it would be worth generations of hard work for the average American. But this is easy. This is easy. So now if I had negative cash flow during the redevelopment of this particular building, which is going on right now, the construction, it doesn't matter because I have that $45,000 to come out of my to pay for this mortgage. But not only that, but I don't have to do that because I received a construction loan from the bank that have deferred payments that I don't have to pay anything until the construction is done. Once the construction is done, I'm going to refinance the property and pay off the construction loan. You see? It's so simple. I don't have to take any money for this. But that $45,000 sometimes is good for, just sending something to a lumber company or whatever before the construction comes through, the construction loan comes through or whatever. But I don't need no $45,000. That goes into another property. That goes into another property to create wealth for me. It's so simple. In my course, it shows you step by step how I started with nothing and created something. It is so step by step that you'll say, gee, it's like, you know that commercial, I should have had a V8? It's like, I realize it's right here in front of me, black and white. I understand. I understand how he made millions of dollars in 2.5 years. I understand that. Okay? Because what would I be then? I would be 80 years old, what, with nothing to do? Realize if it's not for a course, or if it's not for something learning by successful people, you're going to reinvent the wheel, and what you're going to do is go in circles again like I did, and blow it. And maybe you'll be 80 years old saying, oh, I should have did this, I should have did that. Don't ever get into that situation. Okay? Risk. You have to take intelligent risks. It's very, very, very important to take intelligent risks. Because gambling, okay, I'm going to show you this. Risk equals a gamble. Intelligent risk equals real estate. Every day when we get up, we take a risk that something good or bad is going to happen in our lives. Right? Everything is a risk. So what we do is we look at the risk and we judge the returns, and we only do the best deals. You have to decide upon a definite goal in life. Folks, I don't want you to be vague. I don't want you to tell me that your goal in life is to be a millionaire. I don't want to hear that. Write that down. I want you to have a goal in life. I want to have $2 million worth of real estate within the next 6 months. Be specific. Come up with a plan of how you're going to do that, and you will do it. So have a definite goal in life. Have you set a time limit for reaching that goal? Don't say that someday I'm going to be worth $2 million. Say 6 months I'm going to be worth $2 million. Have that direct time. Know it. Have you determined what definite benefits your goal in life will bring you? I want to be prosperous in peace. I want to be prosperous in wealth. I want to be rich in romance. I want to love. I want to have that love for my wife as I give her my love. These are the benefits. It's not all about money. It's about being happy, having that peace. That's what financial freedom is. It gives you that peace of mind. Okay? When you find an opportunity, don't make it into a big deal. Just do it. And there's no reason why you can't become successful with this. Okay? So I want you to realize that. Can we please turn on the lights? Okay. Now, you understand attitude, you understand how I did it. Now we're going to talk about some heart and souls of the deal. The heart and soul of the deal. And I'm going to open up this here. This is the old editor's edition of my course. Now, as I said yesterday, don't ever fall in love. Don't ever fall in love with a property. You fall in love, and you're going to overpay for that property, or what you're going to do is you're going to say, oh, that ego feeling that I own that huge property, that's great. But if it doesn't have a positive cash flow, and if it's not going to increase your net worth, forget about it, folks. I came here because I really want to see you become wealthy. To no extent can I explain that I want each and every one of you to call me and show me what you're doing. I'm serious. There's no reason why you can't do it. And even though some of you are wealthy already, I congratulate you, but you can go further. I realize I can go further. All right, so please don't make mistakes. Learn by other people. Learn by other people's mistakes, not your own. So remember that. Like I said before, I will borrow for profit and not for ego. Sometimes that's why if you're too sentimental, maybe you should have a partner. Because a partner sometimes isn't sentimental. And they'll say, Guy, or whatever, we have to do it now. We have to get rid of this property. Or we have to refinance this property and buy others. Or forget about that property. What is that going to do for us? Figure it out on paper. Okay? As I said to you before, I created more opportunity for myself after the seller told me no. It says here that what we have to understand is this, is increasing your net worth and also creating a positive cash flow. I said that so many times because I want to drill it in your brains. Because also I'm reminding myself of it every time I say it. You know what's very important, and right here, is that it's not location, location, location. It's cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Location is important when you go out and you say, oh, I'm going to hold on to this property for 3 years and I'm going to make myself $200,000. That's great. But if you're going to buy that property, buy a home, hey, it's just as easy to buy a 4-family or a 6-family or an 8-family or a 10-family as it is to purchase a single-family home. Just as simple. Buy that 4-family home to pay for that vacant piece of land that you have a negative cash flow on. Doesn't that make sense? That's what I do. If I buy up a couple acres in New Mexico, I buy it through another property. You see? Or that comes from my cash flow. I have properties that are designated for certain things. I have a property to buy other buildings with. I designate this property. All right, this property is going to pay for all my credit cards. This property is going to pay for my cars. This property is going to pay for this. This property is going to pay for that. I designate it. I invest in wines also. But don't get me wrong, you know, I'm not a wino, all right? But I'm able now to invest in expensive investment quality type wines. And I have, you know, I love it. I love it dearly. And what I do is I consider this one home like a wine home. It buys nothing but investment wines. No matter how much they cost, I have a positive cash flow with that property that I don't need to put in my pocket, so I buy wine with it. You see? And that's another investment. Anything that goes on my walls and home, no, I used to think, oh, yeah, I'll spend $600 on this thing that goes on this piece of whatever that goes on my wall. No, I'd rather get a property to buy a piece of art for thousands of dollars that's going to increase in value. Everything I buy increases in value. You know, I mean, I can't be so bad that I say, oh, it doesn't increase in value, oh, I won't hang anything on my walls. I have to hang something on my walls because when you come to my home, you have to see that I have something in my home, right? So it increases in value. So get that attitude. Okay? Let's talk about a deal. I have it right here, step by step, very important. So I'm going to read it right from here. Let's just say, if a particular deal, you want to buy a property and you're looking through the newspaper. Before I even get into this deal, I have a thought. I just want to tell you something. See, folks, first of all, you got to understand why I created a course. I created a course because you need to understand how to do it exactly, step by step. I created a course so you can go through the motions of my experience. I also created a course because how many people here, once they're worth almost $9 million, would write a book? How many people here, if you were worth $9 million, would write a book to help others? You all would, I know it. I would have never thought I would have wrote a book. Hey, for what I'm worth, I could go out, become ruthless and rotten, and step on people's toes and create damage. But I choose to help people because it's just as easy, right? So why not help people rather than step on people's toes? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Let me tell you something. I'm a developer. I create opportunity. I create housing for unfortunate people. I love that. Okay? At the same time, what I want you to realize is that I've done very well in real estate. I don't have to write a book. But I love knowing that a few people are going to read this and become successful with it. You see, you buy a course because it's like an encyclopedia. You don't read the whole thing and try to understand everything like Dave's course. Dave's course is the best course. It tells you about foreclosures and this and that, and it'll give you the idea of which way you want to go. But now what you have to do is know the in-betweens. And then what you're going to do is I realized that creating something is very important for me. Okay? Creating something like a book, and I will always do that to help other people. Because if I sold 2 of these books, or if I sold 1 million of these books, it doesn't matter. Because this is secondary to me. You see what I'm saying? It's secondary to me. So I could care less if you buy the course for $139. I mean, because you need that. You need that knowledge. You need to know that. I mean, of course I care. I shouldn't have said that. I care because you have to understand how to go on further with your life. Okay? So let's understand why I did that. So I'll read this book cover to cover to you today. And it doesn't matter because you need it like the phone book every day as a reference tool. And that's what you have to realize. So I'm reading out of here directly so you understand, hey, I don't have no secrets. You can all read, it's like, I'll read this. And that's just it. I want you to understand that right off the bat. I'm here to help you this week. I dedicated my life so you can come up to me. I don't care where or when. Talk to me. Ask me questions. Seriously. Maybe I can give you just this much of an idea. Because I came here for a reason, not to stand around. Not to stay in the sun, obviously. I'm white as a ghost all the time. Okay? It's the fact that you come up to me and talk to me. I dedicated myself to you because I was in your shoes. Now it's your turn to be in my shoes. You see? That's all. Now, let's just say if you find a property. What you want to know is the address or the location of the property. Is it, and you're going to say to yourself, is it in a targeted area? So you know immediately if it's in a targeted area that you're eligible for grant money. Now, you're going to ask the question, how many apartments are in the building? Beware of basement or attic apartments. All right? Why? Why? Because most likely these things are illegal. So realize that. If somebody says to you, yeah, I'll sell you this 6-family home. Yeah, but I have a basement and an attic apartment. Most likely it's only a 4-family home. So that's why you have to go down to the Hall of Records to find out what it is. Because you're buying it as a 4-family, not as a 6-family. And you're buying as it is what it is now, not what it can be. Okay? Because you're going to overpay. You're going to ask the question, how many legal bedrooms in each apartment? I mean, they could break down a wall and make a closet into a bedroom. Doesn't mean that it's a legal bedroom. According to code from my state, it has to be the minimum of 70 square feet for another bedroom, a secondary bedroom. Master bedroom has to be 120 square feet. If it's anything less, I'm not buying it as a 3-bedroom. I'm buying it as a 2-bedroom. You ask this question because when you're dealing with, let's just say, Section 8, you get your money based on the amount of bedrooms you have in that particular apartment. So you may get $900 a month for a 3-bedroom. You may get $708 a month for a 2-bedroom. You may get $602 a month for a 1-bedroom. You see? And that increases every year. What are the current rents? As I said before, don't go out and find out what it can get. Oh, well, it's vacant, but you can get $800 a month. Then you say, I'll tell you what you do. If it's so easy to fill it up, you fill it up. Then I'll buy it. Okay? You fill it up for that $900 or $600 that you tell me you could rent it out for, and I'll be more than happy to give you a price for it. Because if not, then it's only worth what it takes in right now. You always base the price on the income. Always. It's numbers that you're buying. All right? Very important. Also, you're going to ask, are any of the tenants currently on the Section 8 program? Because you're going to find out, how much growth potential there is. Ask if the seller is willing to defer the payments of the purchase price. And the seller will then ask, and I'm going to read it right from here, what do you mean? And you say, well, if the purchase price is $100,000, and I'll give you the first, let's say if the purchase price is $100,000, I'll give you the $80,000, that's 80% of the closing, and then in 3 years, or whatever you decide upon, that I will pay you the balance plus the interest. And then the seller will always say, every time, no, I want all cash. All right? And then what you're going to say is, well, how about if I make it into a good investment opportunity for you? And he'll say, well, what do you mean? Okay? And then that's when you say to him, well, by getting me in with deferred payments that I only have to give you $80% up front, that I will give you a higher price for your property, plus it's good for you because you don't have to pay capital gains on all the money at closing. That's number one. Number two is, I will give you, let's say, 10% on your money, that you would get quarterly from me. I would make you interest payments only quarterly. And then after the 3 years, I'll pay you in full. And you can put a lien on another property that I own, or this property, whichever you choose. But what we want them to do is put the lien on another property. You see, if they put the lien on another property that we may own, then it won't show up at closing. So in reality, in legal terms, they're lending you that 20%. So therefore, you really are going into that property with 100% financing, you see, which is considered no money down. So you just went into that property, and if you sometimes put that 20% lien on the property you're purchasing, a lot of banks will say, no, we can't do it, because they know you're going in with no money. But if you put the lien on another property, that's not illegal. And no bank will ever know the difference. And what you're doing something that's legal and truthful, and this is what's going to create wealth for you. Okay? All right, now, also, you're willing to give them a higher price for the property than you would have originally offered him, because he's helping you out, you see? But you know that if the numbers don't work, you're just not going to offer him that higher price. You're going to start low and work your way up. All right? Then what's going to happen at that point is the seller will probably say, well, when do you want to meet? And you'll say to the seller, well, today or tomorrow. Don't let him have to think about it. You meet with him immediately. Make sure that before you walk into that property, he understands the terms that you are offering him. If he understands the terms of the property, then you walk into that property and look at that property. Okay? What I have here is also an inspection sheet. Now this is the type version book. I have the actual printed edition that's upstairs. This is just one that I carry around. This is an inspection sheet that you need. When you walk through a property, you're going to look at things and you're going to talk to yourself. And you're going to say to yourself, yeah, that's right, talk to yourself. And you're going to say, well, you know, I didn't know that this place needs painting, and I didn't realize that the heat wasn't separate. I didn't realize that I needed new screens, this and that. And yet you're not looking directly at the seller, but he understands that, you know, you have a little problem with this. But he's willing to hold back a second mortgage. Now what's going to happen is, folks, is that if you get financing, you're going to have to come up with points or closing costs, maybe $6,000, $7,000 out of your pocket. Let's just say $5,000 to make it easy at closing. So what you're going to do is, he's going to sign the contract, great and wonderful, and obviously there's that contingency that states that everything, okay, in either your addendum or your actual contract, which this is the addendum that I use, it's going to state that everything must be in working order. Now what's going to happen, he's going to sign that contract and you're going to go, look, you know, the screens aren't there, you know, the water goes down slow. These things are going to cost me money. I think that it's going to cost me about $8,000 to repair this stuff. Now, as I said before, he doesn't want to fix things. That's why he's getting rid of the property. Okay? So then what you're going to say to them is, look, I'll tell you what. You pay my closing costs, which will be maybe $5,000, instead of you fixing it. And I'll buy the property as is. You know, they'll always agree. Because it doesn't come out of their pocket. At the closing, when they get that big check, they just get $5,000 less. You see? And it works. And when I first did this, I said, I can't believe that it could really be done. Okay? So no matter how you buy the property, through foreclosures or anything else, it's all about negotiating and giving people what they want. You see? And you'll be able to become very, very, very successful with this. Folks, what you have to realize is that you have to understand financing. The larger you get, no matter how wealthy you are, you have to understand financing. You have to understand what to bring to that financial institution. There's 10 different items that you must bring there. You must understand how to speak with these people. You must understand what to say, what to do. Show them a performa. I show you how to make a performa. It's so important for you to know how to do the numbers. Now let's just say if you went bankrupt several times in your life. That's okay, because knowledge is more important than anything. If you know what you're talking about, and if you bring a deal to me, then I would back you on it if you know what you're talking about, or any other investor for that matter. If for some reason I get a fax, and I always do, I get faxes in my fax machine, and I look at the fax, immediately I know if that person doesn't know what they're talking about, and I throw it away. See, they just give me numbers that they don't know what they're doing. But you will understand how to deal with investors, and how to make a proper performer, and how to talk about things and make it attractive, because if it wasn't attractive, you wouldn't buy it yourself. So many people talk to me about deals that they're doing, and yet just because they were able to do something creatively, they think it's a good deal. It's not. If the numbers don't work, and if you don't know how to recognize it yourself, you're going to only go so far. Because it's simple, buying your first 10 properties. But after that, then you're going to go into different situations where bankers are going to consider you as a risk. You have to know how to avoid that. You're going to have to know what to do. All right? And that's the whole situation. Anybody here who is who is very wealthy at this point, you should know what I'm talking about. Because sometimes you have to extend yourself to investors, to people like, like I know what I want. See, I know what I want as an investor. So I know how to create performers and stuff because I know what I want to see. So if I'm going to send a letter to you and show you about a deal, you're going to understand it completely. From 1 to 10 or 1 to whatever. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If it doesn't work, you don't buy it. If it works, you buy it. It's as simple as that. Then you're going to want to understand programs. Very important. Folks, there's hundreds of programs a state in this whole United States that we can get grant money for free to rehabilitate our properties. I'm not talking about loans, I'm talking about grants. There's hundreds of loans also out there. But if you're having a problem right now receiving certain loans, it's because you don't know how to ask for them. These people are making a few bucks an hour. They don't care about what you know. I went into New York. I want you to ask Kirk Rector, and I want you to ask John Paulison, Dave's attorney, about what they did. They said, Neil, it's impossible to do this in Hawaii. I said, wow, these guys are optimistic, and yet they're telling me it's impossible. I said, this is what you have to do. They said, I call up the people, the government agencies, they tell me we don't do that. I said, well, why don't you do this, this, and this? They called me up the next day. They said they visited this guy. The guy was like the Maytag repairman. He was just sitting there, not doing anything, and he was like, I can't believe you guys are wonderful. He goes, do you know that I put ads in the newspaper, I send out newsletters, and nobody knows what this grant money is all about. Nobody has ever approached me on this because they don't know what they're doing. He goes, I have $750,000 to give you in grant money. Okay, now this particular Oahu had $750,000 in grant money to give out. Now, I believe that they use most of that, and because they're using it, Oahu's eligible for more grant money now. Same thing happened to me in Denver. Same thing happened to me over in New York City. They said to me, oh, we don't do that. I was in a 38-story building. I said, excuse me, do you have a state aid catalog? She said, yes. I said, can I have it? Put it on the desk. I opened it up. I said, what's that? She said, oh, I didn't know we had that. You see, if it was me a few years ago and I went into the DCA and I said, look, do you have the rental rehabilitation program for substandard housing? She'd go, no. I'd say, thank you. And I'd walk out. But now I know better. Now you know better. And you know what to ask for. You need to understand these things. And then you're going to get into larger projects. And once you get that solidness, and some of you have it, then you're going to want to know that HUD can offer you 100% financing on deals with a 40 to 50-year payout. This is the newest program going. It's called the 221D program. It's for senior citizen projects. But you have to be established. If you're not established, you could probably forget about it. Okay? But after you get involved with all these things and make millions of dollars in these smaller properties, you'll be able to get those other things, unless if you have a partner like myself or someone who knows what they're doing. You see? But sometimes, as I said before, we waste so much time. Folks, I'm going to end up with this. As I said before, when you find an opportunity, don't make it into a big deal. Just do it. And there's no reason why you can't become successful with it. Okay? So, God bless you.